Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and we're going to take a kind of temporary detour from looking at swing in this tutorial just to look at serialization in Java. And the reason I'm going to do that is just because I've been building this application which does quite a lot already, but I want to have a way of making these import and export data items work so that I can store some test data here that we can work with. That's why in this tutorial I'm going to go over saving objects to files in Java and restoring them, even though that's not strictly speaking part of Swing. So I'm going to start with the database class, which is part of my model here, and I'm going to give this database class a couple of methods for saving and loading this array list of people. So I'll give it a method called save to file, and save to file will accept a file object as its only argument, and that's the file that we actually want to save to. Let's add the import there, Java IO file, and I'll make the return type void. Now, to actually do the saving, firstly I'll create a file output stream, which I'll call FOS, and I'll set that equal to a new file output stream, which will wrap the file. And then after adding the import, I'll have a object output stream OOS equals new object output stream, and this is going to wrap the file output stream object. So we've got this kind of Russian doll thing going on that you always seem to have in Java when it comes to handling files. And I'm going to use this object output stream to write my array list of people to a file, and after I've done that I'll just call oos.close, and I'm going to throw from this method IO exception, because I want to handle it further up the chain. Now, to actually write this array list of people to this file, there are various ways that I can do that, and the way that I prefer, because it avoids warnings about unchecked types and this sort of thing, is to convert this array list of people to an array list and then write it to the file. So I'm going to say person array, and I'll just call that, I don't know, persons equals, and let's use people dot to array, and I'll use this version that returns a array of the correct type. So here I have to pass in a new, let's copy that, a new person array of the correct length, which is going to be people dot size, like this. And if I've got this right, which I have, that's going to return a typed list of persons. So you kind of create the actual array there, and basically this to array fills it and then returns a reference to it. And then it's pretty simple to write that to a file, because all we have to do is say oos.write object, and pass in the array list, because an array in Java, strange though it may seem, is actually just an object. And the advantage of doing it like this is that if I'd use the array list here, people, and an array list, although it has the template type person, suffers from erasure, which is when you not the 80s synth band, but actually if I had actually written this array list to the file, then its type would have been erased, and then when I restored it I would have ended up probably getting a unchecked conversion warning, which I don't like, so I prefer to do it this way. Anyway, that's not too important. Let's maximize the editor here, and let's write the load from file method. So public void load from file here, and and that's also going to throw IO exception. And this time I'm going to use a file input stream, FIS equals new file input stream, and that's going to wrap the file here, and then I'm going to have an object input stream OIS equals new object input stream, and that's going to wrap the file input stream. And after I've loaded objects from it, I'm going to do OIS dot close. Let's add the imports there, Control Shift O. And now I want to restore from this object stream my array of persons, because you see an actual array in Java does not suffer from erasure. It remembers what type it actually is. So let's say OIS.read object, and I'm just going to read the one object, and it's going to be a person array of persons. So let's just copy that like this, equals, and then I can cast that to a type person array. And if I save that, so I've got a little error here. Oh yeah, I've got to also handle this class not found exception. So if I do surround with try catch there, and I'll just leave that for the moment. And once I've got my array, I want to then set this people array. I want to fill it with the items from the array. And one important thing just for this little application is that I don't want to change the array list that this is pointing at. So I don't want to create a new array list, because then I'd have to think about how to get that array list back up the chain to my table model. So I just want to, rather than create a new one, I want to just empty this one and put new items into it. So I'm going to say here people.clear like this, and then let's say people.add all, and I want to add all the items from this array. But add all doesn't take an array directly, but there is a arrays dot I think it's called to list method, or maybe it's called add list, as list. Let's see. And I have to pass in there the persons array. Let's add the import, and in fact I think it is called as list. So what I've done is I've converted this persons array to a list here, and I've added that list to the array list of people after clearing it. So that's a little bit involved, but that should basically take care of saving and loading the array of person objects using serialization in Java. And if I wanted to save more data and load more data, of course I could then further go on to write more stuff after this, and I could then load more stuff after this as well. So you're not limited to just reading or writing one object with serialization. And there's one important thing that I must remember to do, otherwise I'll get an exception, which is that I must make person implement serializable. So if I go to public class person here, I have to say implements serializable, otherwise I'll get an exception being thrown when I try to serialize it. So let's add Java IO serializable, and I don't actually have to add any new methods there, although Eclipse is going to give me a warning here about a generated serial version ID, and I'll just get it to add that just to shut it up. Okay, I don't think we actually need that though, so let's save that. Okay, the warning's gone. So now I'm going to just make these save to file and load from file methods work. So firstly I'll go to the controller, which is here, and because I've decided that in this application I want all communication from the view, the GUI package, to go through the controller, I'm going to just add wrapper methods in the controller here. So public void save to file, that accepts file, and all it does is it calls the db.savedFile method, and of course I also have to add the throws IO exception there. Let's add the import file and add throws declaration. Okay, and same thing again for load. So public void load from file. Let's type here throws IO exception, and that's going to do db.load from file. There we go. And now finally, the last bit in this chain here, chain of method calls, is if I go up to where are we? If I go up to the GUI here, the view part of the MVC architecture, model view controller, and I go to mainframe here, then if I look down here, I've actually got a import data item and export data item, menu item, which at the moment aren't doing anything. So let's make those work. Let's say controller for import dot load controller, to spell it right, that will help. Controller dot load from file, and that's going to accept file chooser dot get selected file, which will return the kind of file object that the user has chosen to load. Let's delete that and let's handle the exception there and surround with try catch. And what I'll do is, if it can't load the file, I'll say j option pane dot show I think it's called message dialog, and then let's pass for the parent mainframe dot this, and actually don't want this form of the constructor. I want a more advanced one that has some more gumph. This one, I think. So let's add the message in here. So load data from file, or maybe let's say failed. Yeah, how about could not load data from file? How's that? And then let's add the title error. That'll do, actually, error. And finally, message type j option pane dot let's have error message there, and I'll just do Control Shift F to format that a bit. Now the save is going to look pretty damn similar, so let's copy that and put it in here. And except for it's not going to be load, it's going to be save, not save from, but save to file. And let's say could not save data to file. And apart from that, it's all going to be pretty much the same. I'll just show you what that error message dialog looks like here. So let's run this and go to file, export data. I'll export to test.par, and so that's what the message looks like. Could not save data to file, so it's rather nice. But I'll get rid of that for the moment, and let's see if this thing actually works. I don't think I've forgotten anything, although it's easy to make mistakes with serialization, I find. So let's run this here. Now, I have forgotten something, which is when I actually load the data. So when I do, where are we? So let's go up a bit here, and when I do load from file, I've got to remember to call table panel.refresh, otherwise the table panel won't know that there's more data there. And the refresh method, if you recall, in table panel, just basically let's take a quick look at it. I've got this in GUI. I've got a person, where are we, table panel, there we go, and that's just doing, it's got its refresh method which calls table model fire table data changed, and that tells the table to query the model again and get the latest data from it. So let's run this and see how it looks. Now I'm going to I'll add myself in there, John. Let's just say software for occupation. I am self-employed and not a US citizen, so let's click OK. And let's add another person in there. Let's say Sue, and let's make Sue a manager, and let's say that she's employed, and she's a US citizen with tax ID 1111, and she's female. Let's add her. And actually I should really make it that when I click the OK button it clears the form, which I could do very easily by setting the text on these values to nothing and resetting the selection, but I'll leave that as an exercise for you. Let's go to File, Export Data, and I can type the file name here, but I'll just use this test.per that I've been using. Click Save, and now if I go to Import Data from test.per, hopefully there'll be no errors. And just to prove that it works, let's quit the application, run it again, and go to File, Import Data, test.per, and there we are, we've got my data back. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. As I say, not swing specific, but pretty damn useful, so I thought it was worth going over because it fits very much into the context of this application, and I wanted to leave you with an application that sort of works. And in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use pop-up menus, and we're going to create a pop-up menu that lets you just delete a row from this table, because at the moment if I do import data and right click on the table, nothing happens, and we're going to fix that with a little pop-up menu. So join me again next time, and until next time, happy coding.